Anything else, Mr. Thank you. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. We're about 8 minutes running behind, and I think Debbie and Bruce may still come around and drop off some wine for you guys. But to get started, let's do a little bit of house cleaning. In front of you, on your left side, should be a bio sheet. And underneath the bio sheet should be the wine slides for the second session, if you are sitting in the second session. And then on your right side should be, the first sheet should be a piece of paper that says Universe. All right, guys. And staple sheet underneath that should be right there. If you don't have those materials, but to get started, let's get over to house. One of us sees you, and we'll come and give that to you. On your left side should be a fire. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. 4. You are sitting in the second session, and then on your right side should be the first sheet. Should you guys be have the left side or the right side? Let's go and get started. If you don't have those materials, to get started, let's get over to house. One of us, one of you, on the left side should be a fire. 1, 2, 3. Adequate space to taste or to take tasting notes. So if you have any issues, so let me kind of first give you a little intro. This tasting was basically inspired by a tasting that occurred last year for the Texas Wine and Tasting Panel, where we had a group of judges and talked and really evaluated Blanc du Bois. And in that tasting, there was a lot of truth that came out. One, the way that the journal does their tasting is we basically have a panel that tastes wine, and we take those scores and we average. But because we are tasting wine with a group of people, we have a lot of data to collect and analyze. Part of that data that we can collect and analyze is basically panel consensus across the categories of the tasting. And I'm live broadcasting. Anyways, so this category in particular was very interesting because out of the 12 judges that were in attendance at tasting, this category compared to all other categories tasted last year, which where there were 9, had the lowest consensus across the entire category, meaning that if I were to look at the panel and rate them on a 100-point scale, the panel basically tasted Blanc du Bois between 1 and 1.25 points of each other on a 100-point scale. So for us, we look at that and say, okay, this is significant data. Then we can further look into the category in terms of what's really happening in terms of styles, production techniques, growing areas, things like that. So this tasting was kind of inspired by that because there's some truths about Blanc du Bois that need to be brought to light. One of them is, in my opinion, versatility. And as people tell me, you guys all have their own input. But what I really wanted this tasting to be was for you guys to kind of look at Blanc du Bois in a new light in some regard in terms of its versatility, in terms of it being something that grows well in Texas. And the panel will obviously add more detail to this. So the way that we'll do the tasting or the discussion, I have a couple of questions that we'll ask. They're going to lead the tasting through their wines, and then there'll be a Q&A period for you guys to ask your own questions. Okay? So if it feels like we're going fast, it's because we are going fast. We have an hour, and we're already a little bit behind. So I would say reserve your questions for the very end, and you'll have an opportunity to ask those questions at that point. All right? Alrighty, so I'm not a microphone guy. If you guys can't hear me, then that's probably on your end, because I'm a loud talker. Okay, so really I wanted to start the discussion with a couple of just quick questions that could be asked to both these guys to kind of get you used to or some understanding about their experience, their perception, and where they see Blanc du Bois going as a varietal in Texas. So I'll start with Marta. So Marta, first question. What most surprises you about Blanc du Bois from your experience so far? If you're allowed to talk, by all means.
If you don't hear me, I'm going to spend
Need a microphone. I'd use the microphone.
Hello?
Yeah.
What the most surprised me about Blanc du Bois? First, I work a little bit with other hybrids in North Carolina, like Sanchez and Savannah, and Blanc du Bois is the hybrid that I noticed the less foxiness or hybrid characters. So since the first time I tasted it, I really liked it. It reminded me more vinifera than hybrid. Another thing that surprised me, like Daniel said, is its versatility. You can do from a crispy, a dry one, to a core dessert. And it also surprised me that it can grow on the Gulf Coast, which is, for us, for the winemakers, it's a miracle. Like I was reading, it's a challenge for viticulturists and a miracle for winemakers.
Awesome. Dan, same question.
Okay, well, I think that definitely I would echo all those sentiments. The one wonderful thing about it is that you can definitely work out some of the issues in terms of the hybrid overcomes. One of the things that I like about Blanc du Bois is its ability to fit into what we have kind of called the universe of white wines. This is kind of on the front page of my handout. If you refer to that, I'll probably just go ahead and talk a little bit about how I kind of conceive of white wines and kind of where it fits, into the marketplace. I've been doing this for 38 years. I worked as a merchant, as a professional wine buyer, worked as in the trade and also as a producer. What I've seen in my time about white wine has been that the world of white wine is very lopsided. It's very Chardonnay centric, and the reason for that becomes evident if you pry into the data a little bit more. In the world of whites, I think the white wines, the grapes tend to fall into one of three categories. They're either floral, or they're herbal, or and there's very few in the middle that are actually neutral. And one of the reasons why Chardonnay sells as much as it does, and you look at the chart at the very bottom, I reprinted that from the Nielsen statistics of 2014. You can see that Chardonnay just completely dominates the universe of white wines. And what I've seen in my time is, where like the florals will have a revival, we'll have a recent movement, or we'll have a Gewürztraminer, or we'll have a Viognier or something, and people will it draws in a lot of, how can I say, entry-level wine drinkers, and then after they are with those for a while, then they shift toward neutrality. When people are experienced wine drinkers that are drinking Chardonnay every now and then, 3 or 4 years, you get totally bored with it, and here they go, and then it's a Sauvignon Blanc revival, and that lasts for a while, and then eventually, the marketplace shifts back toward neutrality. So there's this like gravity center in the world of white wines that it's very hard to get away from. But one of the things I like about Blanc du Bois is I think it offers the possibility, if it can be identified correctly, so that especially the herbal nature of it is minimized. It can fit into the neutral category and hopefully ultimately find a permanent home in the marketplace. And I think that's something that it offers us.
Great, thank you. So let me take it back to Marta. In front of your, I guess one of the bio sheets talks about the bios. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on personal background for each of the speakers, but in the case of Marta, she has a very interesting background. And if you wouldn't mind, share what your experience was coming here, dealing with Blanc du Bois for the very first time, and how did that change any winemaking, basically practices you learned before, and how did you apply that to what's happening now?
Well, wherever I work, I want to do the best make the best of the land I'm working for. It has to give us. So if I'm going to be in the Gold Coast and we are able to grow Blanc du Bois, I want to believe in that variety, and I want to do the best as I can. Of course, when I tasted Blanc du Bois for the first time, I immediately loved it. So it's not that I found something that I thought it was going to be difficult to do. So now I was just trying to improve a little bit of vinification and trying to understand the grape. We have 3 acres and the property that I work hard to, and it's definitely it's a challenge. And challenges are always when you believe in them, they're always fun, they're always interesting, and I think the fact that we probably don't have to deal with the freezes like the high plains have. And we are always also having more growers every year. That's something that is going to be very healthy for us. So yeah, it's different. Of course, working with the Carnillo and Merlot Cab varieties, but at the same time, it's very unique and it's good, and I see a lot of potential.
Perfect. So let me kind of continue the same question. Anything in particular in terms of vineyard management, winery protocol that you have to contend with Blanc du Bois that you may not necessarily have to contend with another varietal?
Well, Blanc du Bois, because it's where we grow it in Santa Fe, our soil is like mostly clay. It's very, very difficult place to grow grapes, but the plant still is extremely vigorous. So what I'm trying to do to get better results in our vineyard, which it has been producing from none to I think the most was last year we got 5.8 tons in 3 acres, which yeah, that's a record. It's kind of sad. But anyways, I've been doing more drastic pruning. I've been doing a lot of shoot thinning. It's like once you are done with the shoot thinning, you have to do it again. And some leaf thinning too. There's a lot of humidity. You want the air, have more airflow to avoid the diseases. Shoot positioning, which is a pain, Blanc du Bois, because the shoots usually go down. And have a very strict pesticide program, especially in us in the southeast, so it's very humid. We can have a lot of berry moth, downy mildew, we have canker disease. So those are basically, there are some new things I want to try now to make the water not stay the same. And so every year I want to try something different to see how I improve.
Do you think that elevation at some point will help that, particularly in the Gulf Coast region?
Yeah,
there is an elevation.
Yeah, of course I'm talking about the vineyard we have at Haak. That's only 4% of all of our wines. Most of the grapes we buy from West Houston, Cat Spring area, Weimer, and all these areas. So they have different soil, they have less problems than we do. I'm talking about our vineyard because that's the one I'm working at, and that's the wine. The first one I'm going to taste is coming from that vineyard.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Dan, I'm going to extend the same question to you, but touch a little bit on the pyrazine issue.
Okay, talking about fitting the Blanc du Bois into the neutral category, the one thing that stands in the way of that more than anything, of course, is the super high pyrazine levels in Blanc du Bois. So the key is to try to identify that in a way that we not that we don't get that objectionable odor in the wine. It really needs to be taken care of in the vineyard. When I signed on with the Vineyard of Florence 6 years ago, one of the things that right at that time there had been some research done actually on Southern Blanc in Lake County that we kind of borrowed heavily from, to be honest, and it had a lot to do with raising canopy because pyrazine levels really need to be dealt with in the vineyard. You really don't want to get them in the winery. They're very difficult to deal with once they're in the winery. The key thing is indirect sunlight. In high light conditions, you don't want to like roast your fruit, but high light conditions, as much light as you can get on them, is what drives pyrazine levels down. So if you want to recall, flip to the second page, we have a little thing there about pyrazine. It talks about how incredibly low levels. I mean, people can sense pyrazine in parts per trillion, which is completely astonishing. Some people can sense as low as 2 parts per trillion. Everyone can sense between 5 and 10. So it's very important to get that smell down to a minimum. High pyrazine tends to produce a catchy kind of smell, and there's no other nicer way to say it, but it is kind of that's the thing that we're fighting. Like I say, it's best controlled in the vineyard. Vertical canopies always better. Leaf pulling is very laborious, but if you've got some kind of a sprawl in your control system, you got to do some leaf pulling, then that's the next option. But it's mainly it needs to be controlled in the vineyard. Another new research also has indicated that the best time to get light on your fruit is right after fruit set, between fruit set and fermentation, to drive the pyrazine levels down to the most. And this is something that I kind of envisioned it the other way. I kind of envisioned it, that you would pull leaves, like right before fermentation or something. And now they're saying if you really have pyrazine issues, get those leaves off as soon as possible. Get a lot of indirect light on the green fruit. And that seems to be the latest on that. One other quick point that I didn't put on this page, two, but one quick point is, then it also becomes essential to get nets on your fruit, because if we can sense pyrazine at incredibly low levels, I got news, the birds can also. So what happens is you may have done all the work in your vineyard, you may have perfect fruit, and then all of a sudden the birds will come through and they'll take every ripe grape, every ripe berry that smells floral and wonderful, and they'll leave you all the stinky ones. So you'll lose. Sometimes people say, "Oh yeah, well I do all that, but I still have pyrazine." Now, well, you're not netting, or you're not netting good enough. And also, one real quick point: the good news about the situation I stepped into, and Amber is here. She's the manager at the vineyard farm. She does the vineyards herself. They were the first people that I knew that really committed the resources to treat Blanc du Bois like it was a premium varietal. Go out there, spend the money to net it. I mean, we'll net it and literally roll it into bags and zip tie it at the bottom. So it's just like big bags of vines. And that's the only way it can be done and be done effectively. And I think that's one thing that really helps.
Okay, I'm going to basically fast forward to the future. I think one of the biggest questions that I have as a wine lover of Texas wine and wine in general, same question for both of you guys. Where do you see Blanc du Bois fitting into the industry today, tomorrow, and then on the world stage in 10 years? And Marta, if you get to start.
Well, the good news, I think, is seeing that there's more growers every year. That means that there's more wineries wanting to produce Blanc du Bois. That means there's a bigger market. And it's not only going to be about making a good product right now, although we have to be more, how do you say, like equal. Because right now you can taste good Blanc du Bois, but you can also taste a little bit not that good. So if somebody tastes a Blanc du Bois that's not good, so remember that, and it's going to spread the word. So we have to be a little bit more kind of like equal in quality. But anyways, not talking about the winemaking, we need a lot of support from, I guess, the state. I don't know about these things, but more marketing, more maybe like you guys will do tastings and publications, maybe blind tastings to get some French varieties and get them out, and so people will know more about it.
So if you were to do it, I think one of the questions then becomes, because there's so much versatility that a Blanc du Bois can be interacted with, what is that world wine that you would compare it to? Because the pyrazine issue is one issue, but because of the degree of versatility, you can really go in any type of direction. So I guess from the wines that you make, where do you see it fitting into that world stage in terms of the Blanc du Bois style that you're making?
Probably it would be like Pinot Grigio. the dry that we make from the same region, the semi-smooth, kind of like similar to Rieslings.
Sure.
And of course, the Madeiras we already did a couple of tastings with the Bordeaux, Portuguese Madeiras, and scores.
So it's really whatever style can compete. Is that what the bottom line is?
Yeah, but that's just like something to get us out of publications. But we need more support, more marketing, and like this that we are doing like a Blanc du Bois Symposium. It's a great thing.
Excellent. And let me pass the same question to Dan. Where does Blanc du Bois fit in your mind in Texas in the future, and where does it fit in your mind on the world stage?
Well, I mean, I would just probably reiterate what I said earlier about neutrality. The more we can fit Blanc du Bois into a more neutral category, the more it has a permanent home in the marketplace. And you know, when I say that, I don't mean to like, you know, to indicate or imply that, you know, if you're producing Viognier or you're producing, you know, Sauvignon Blanc that there's a market. Of course there is. I mean, I'm only referring to the real large universe of what the trends have been over the last 38 years since I've been in the business. But the more we can get it in a neutral state, the more we can find a permanent home and establish it as a variety that people will go to on a regular basis and feel comfortable with on a regular basis. If it hangs out there in the herbal category, you know, I mean, again, people will, there's a market, but it's not as broad and it's not as far-reaching as the neutral category.
Great. Okay, so with that, really quick questions. We're gonna kind of go through the tasting component. And if you're sitting in both this session and the next session this afternoon, the reason why I wanted to get these guys up here first and foremost was they are producing very unique styles and they're producing very different styles. And between this morning and this afternoon, we wanted to showcase all the versatility that Blanc du Bois can go through. So you'll taste bone dry, you'll taste oaked, you'll taste sur lead, you'll taste fortified, you'll taste Madeira, you'll taste sparkling, you'll taste blends, you'll taste off dry between now and this afternoon. So everyone should have a wine flight card. Basically, it's broken down session 1, session 2. I'm going to let Dan basically walk everybody through the first 2 wines, about 5 minutes of wine, Dan. Good. And then Marta will walk everybody through her last 2 wines, and then we'll do a Q&A. Okay?
Okay, probably if you look at your handout, you're going to flip to page 3. But before we get into the wines, I'll talk a little bit about what the vineyard in Florence looks like. We have 2 blocks of Blanc du Bois. One, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'll just give you the brief overview. One of them is in the valley floor. It's east-west orientation. It holds water better. It's got it produces fruit, generally speaking, that I would consider that is probably a little bit more geared toward almost like a Chenin Blanc style. Now that's not always true, but it is true. You know, it has been true generally speaking over time. Now we have another block of vines that is about 5 acres and it's on a hillside. It's on a hillside shelf. The soils are very thin. It tends not to hold water very as well, so the fruit gets more concentrated, it's more dehydrated. The canopy is thinner, the rows are north-south, and it produces a more Chardonnay style fruit that's a little bit more concentrated. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of what we started with. So if you flip over to the very back then, you will see, if you flip over to the very back, you will see how our thinking progressed over time. And this will be a good way to introduce the 2 wines that we're tasting today. When we started out in 2009, we conceived of the 2 different blocks as producing one that would be more like a Chenin Blanc style and one that was more like a Chardonnay style. And we call them Aura and Aurelia. In 2011, we had obviously a La Nina year. We had a huge drought that had in the upper block got really dry and really dehydrated. So we decided to add white port to the menu. And that worked really well. It turned out to be a very popular wine. But in 2014, we've added a couple of things in an effort to expand the neutral category. We've added 2 more Chardonnay styles. So if you look at the last block, you can see the ones with the check marks are the ones that we're tasting today. And the first wine up is what we call Lyra. Lyra is made in the same style that I'm making with Chardonnay. It's one of our most popular wines over here.
Your wines are left to right.
Yeah, left to right, yes. So in 2013, we had a severe frost, like I'm sure everybody in this room was affected by. And then we produced a very small amount of fruit, only about 100 gallons or so of wine came off 5 acres. So it was a very, very high quality fruit that we had. And from that, we vinified it as in the same way that I treat English Chardonnay. So it's in crisp, fringe, a lot of minerality. It's the English style, which I refer to as the O program, is what I call just a kiss. It's very minimal. It's there, but it's very minimal. Now, this year in 2014, we also added another one that we call Luce, which is barrel fermented. So this represents the extreme polar opposite of Lyra. You've got the maximum oaky buttery. You're talking about fermented in barrels, surly, stirred, and in fact all of our Blanc du Bois is all surly and stirred. So that's whether it's in tank or whether it's in barrels, it doesn't matter. They're all surly and stirred. But anyway, so these are the 2. So wine number 1 is French Steely. Crisp style, personally one of my favorites, but I know that we're a house divided on this. And then this wine number 2 is barrel fermented, maximum oaky buttery, more West Coast Chardonnay style. And if there's any questions, I'd say go ahead and taste them. If there's any questions, take them side by side, and I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Sure.
So the Luce, you said bottled last week?
Yes, Luce is 14, so it just came out of barrels and got filtered and got bottled last week.
So any questions about wines specifically, and then we'll do a general Q&A afterward. All right, Marta, you're up.
One quick one. Yeah, did you do a Luce in 2013?
We did not. So 2014 was first year for barrel fermented for us. And like I say, the other wines is what we call just a kiss. I mean, they'll spend a month or 2 it's very, very minimal. I will say, Lyra, your first wine, number 1, is no malolactic. Okay, so and the second wine is of course malolactic. So and the second wine is 100% ml. So it went from 0 to 100% maximum contact. And I put them in the tasting here specifically to show the most opposite styles that we can create from the maximum on one end of the spectrum to the maximum at the other.
2015 was
stainless steel. Just a kiss. That's what we call it. That's it. Same as no, only French. I don't use any American oak wine I make for any person.
You talking about French kids?
Well, I don't know.
Yes, sir.
If you have a pre-finished Blanc finish in 2013 in the coastal.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
All right, Marta, you want to?
We have enough problems. No freezes, please.
You want to start with your wines?
Okay, so the first wine we're going to taste from Haak is the 2013 Estate Reserve, and I wanted to bring this one because it's one of the most unique we have. The reason is because it grows in the Robinson County, which is 30 minutes from the ocean, and it's the only vineyard in the in the Galveston County. It's very difficult for us to grow grapes, but we're working hard to get as much close as we can. And of course, it's always nice when people come and can drink a wine that comes from the property, the state. So it was harvested in the beginning of July after 19.8 grapes. It was whole cluster pressed and then fermented in barrels. This one is fermented in American barrels, 3 and 4 years old. Usually before they used to ferment it in new old, but I don't think that one that well new old is the one that I tasted. So I wanted to try different older barrels. Actually, the next month I was doing most individual barrels, and I'm also using French just to compare to see what happens. And so it's been fermented in barrel, and it's been aged to be I do mash like 2-3 days a week in order to get the amount of proteins and the peptides and the aromas from the yeast that will help the lower aromas and help the wine from being brown and oxidized. Also, I started malolactic. I didn't want it to go all through to go make it very flat, so it was 2 grams. The grape started like 5 grams per liter of malate. So I started malolactic when it was 2 grams per liter, and so it will keep a little bit of that acidity. And
How is the reserve different than the non-reserve?
Our dry Blanc du Bois is fermented in stainless steel, doesn't have a barrel. So this one is fermented in aged barrel during like around 5 months. You smell the obviously a little bit of the oak notes, like the hazelnut or the vanilla from the dairy milk, but you still have a little bit of the tropical feel of vanilla. So, will we talk about this? Sure.
Any questions about the dry? Because we're going to go to fortified, and it's gonna make your palate very happy. But if you go backwards, you won't be very happy. So, ask questions about the dry wines if you have. Yes, Dr.
On number 3, you've escaped from the medicinal edge. How do you think you've done? Is it something that happened in the vineyard? Is it something that happened in winemaking? But this is a very different wine from most of the Blanc du Bois. From the sort of medicine-like aspect that Blanc du Bois frequently has. Did that happen in winemaking, or did it happen in the vineyard, or both?
Both. I try to make the same little all this green cuisine. I do a lot of and yeah, like I was saying earlier, you don't have to get a lot of those cuisines and green flavors. Like I do a lot of shifting in the vineyard, shoot position. I prune very hard, not scared of pruning. And of course in the winery, what can I do different? Okay, the usage from my taste and other Blanc du Bois, they give a little bit of bitterness at the end. I think it's because of Blanc du Bois is very high in polyphenols. So I like to treat the wine with a little bit of PBT. So those catechins and the polyphenols, they will just drop. And that made like a nicer finish. To avoid this bitterness of it sometimes. And so, okay, so the last wine is a dessert. It's our dessert wine. It's a Madeira wine. And we are very, very proud of. We are the only ones. Like all 2 or 3 other wineries in the state of Madeira. Raymond Haak here is the king of the Madeira, and he can probably tell you more about how he started all. And it comes from the Blanc du Bois grapes as well. The process of pressing fermentation is the same. And excuse me, we use different yeast because the wine has 15% alcohol, so we have to use resistant yeast to high yeast that have high tolerant and like water 43. And then we don't make it like a traditional Madeira. We do like it's called natural purification. That means when the wine has reached 4 bricks, we keep adding sugar every 2 days. So it goes from 4 to 6 and 4 to 6 because if we have the sugar all at one time, the yeast can be stressed. So we do that little by little. We have to follow that and we do that until the wine gets the 18%. After that, we age the wine for 1 year in barrels, 2 years, 3 years mixed. And then after a year, we sweeten the wine to 7-8% of sugar and replace the barrels into a estufa, which is an oven. It means oven in Portuguese. That's how the Madeira started. And we place like 37, 38 barrels per batch. And they stay there for 6-7 months, basically cooking, oxidizing, caramelizing. So that's how the process works. And the Madeira gets more complex. You have some water evaporation, and the notes from the barrel, the notes from the coffee, almonds, and it's very, very nutty, this wine. But still, these grapes they came from a different vineyard, the Aston Martin. They have a different soil, and their pH is also better than ours. It's lower, our pH is very basic. And they will have it with a lower bricks, and lower and very high acidity. I think it was like 9 or something. So we like to use this not just for Madeira. So it's sweet, but it's still acid, and it's like, you don't get tired of tasting because it's still refreshing.
Marta, I have another question, and maybe Raymond can chime in also.
Yeah.
The history, why this style, and how did you decide to do it? Why did you decide to do it? And obviously, if you're making Madeira, you're familiar with the history of the United States and Madeira. Does that tie into it, or is it more of just you stumbled upon it? It was like is there an amber or something?
Only him. The 75-year-old man in trouble right now. Question again.
Just the history, like how did you stumble upon the style, or what did you stumble upon it, or you knew that that's what you wanted to do?
A friend of mine, E.C. Flint from Lake Charles, Louisiana, was doing wine tastings, and I think Richard was there, as a matter of fact. Smart from Australia was there, Richard Smart. Anyway, and they were tasting all of our wines, and I had brought a port made from Black Spanish. And E.C. Flint tasted my Black Spanish port and said, "Brandon, have you ever thought about making Madeira?" I had no idea what Madeira was. This was a few years ago. But I never forgot it. All the way home, riding back home, I was thinking, Madeira, what is that? And so I started reading books, and then I had the awesome job of going to the island. It's hard work, that's what you got to do. And see how they made it. Read about it. And so the first Madeiras we made was from Black Spanish, which I hate. And then the more I read, I realized that most all the Madeiras were made from white grapes. Certainly all Perrières, Monty, Bois, those are all white grapes. And so we decided to make it with Blanc du Bois. Blanc du Bois also has golden muscat parentage, and the Monty is the muscat parentage. So that's kind of how we loved into it. And it just, the good news was the first label we went for 2 weeks before I had my label approved, I got an email from American Wine Society, I remember, saying that if you don't have a label approved in the next 2 weeks, you're not ever going to get one approved for port, sherry, and Madeiras. I already had port, but I didn't have Madeira.
What year was that?
This was in 2006. And so I managed to get that label off and get it approved, and 2 weeks later, the government signed an agreement with the European Union. Nobody else could do Madeira. Sucks. So,
It's good for you.
there it is. Honestly, answer the question.
All right, so we have basically, we're making great timing. So let's open it up to some questions, and it can be wine related, it can be vineyard related, it can be whatever related. So just to kind of, if you read the bio, sitting in front of two people that have tremendous amount of experience. And it's a good opportunity to ask those questions, particularly as it pertains to this varietal. My take on this varietal is great versatility. It can be planted, grown, and harvested in quality and in volume. So I would ask that you guys ask questions geared towards making Blanc du Bois more of a staple in Texas wine if it were to be so. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering how you instruct your vineyards that you buy from on how to do the fruit.
You guys, either way.
Okay. Another thing that I like about working on Blanc du Bois is all our growers are relatively close, that means 2 hours and a half, 3. It's not like the high pace, and the communication is much better, they know how to do the job, it's very easy to work with them, they're always giving me that data, it's much easier for us to go visit them, so there's really no problem, they're great, they're very, very happy.
Marta, I have a question. You said the malic acid was 5 grams per liter this year. Is this like a common thing, or this was a very unusual year this year? Is this common from what that malic?
From what I've seen, it is common. These are the one I posted. I don't know about the other ones. The other it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
With regard to yeast, and I know that you mentioned for there, you were choosing one that high alcohol tolerance. Found there are other strains that you find work well, or that you prefer.
If I try the different ones,
in the production of your wines, are there yeast strains that you prefer?
The Uniform 43 that I use in Madeira, and anyways, in general, I never had any problems of stack fermentations or anything like that. So for the whites, I really didn't change. I changed sometimes for the dry just to compare. I didn't see much difference. What I noticed more difference is in the malolactic bacteria and this the previous one, 2012. It took me forever to complete malolactic, and so then I decided to use one that is more resistant to cold temperatures because we have 3-4 atmosphere in the cellar. And also I inoculate, I started to inoculate before the alcoholic fermentation was over, so it's not good. But yeah, I use the Uniform 43 for Madeira. And for dry Blanc du Bois, and I use RHST and the other one, I don't know the name, but they all use very good results, so without asking.
When you go to the store and stuff, you never see Blanc du Bois. You never see it, and how do you get Blanc du Bois out there so people know Blanc du Bois? And is it because we have a limited number of growers, or what do we have to do to get Blanc du Bois out there? It makes it nice.
We're sitting in front of the guy who knows how to do that.
Well, I don't know how to, I'm just saying that a lot of the people that really work from the distribution, they would tell us, oh, just make it Chardonnay, nobody knows what Blanc du Bois is. So unfortunately, we don't have that support, and they're telling us to do something that we don't really want to do. So, but I understand that at some point, so it's complicated.
I don't know if is it a matter of,
It's a wonderful John Bratcher who's been a health McPherson facility while it's what he said about Chenin Blanc 20 years ago. Very funny. He said, the great thing about Chenin Blanc is you can drop it off in some of the wine store on Sunday night, just leave it on the curb, there's nobody to steal it. That's our problem.
So what does that mean? Is it an education problem? Or is it an education problem? Is it a matter of, and I guess the question for all the producers who make a wonderful home room, is it a matter of vineyards planted and the ability to scale? Is that the issue? Is that part of an issue?
It's complicated. There's distribution here is, there's not a simple answer to that question.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I think that there's a problem with consistency. There's the old adage about if you want your dog to play with you, you hang a pork chop around it. Well, you take Blanc du Bois and you enter competitions. We're not all winning gold, silver, and bronze medals all the time. That's part of the problem is consistency. And that's why we have the seminar. That's how we're going to get the Blanc du Bois. We are sitting around like we're doing and talking about how can we improve on the quality. How do we grow with quality wines and what's some of the best styles? We make 7 different wines from Blanc du Bois. They all sell. Now, they don't sell as well because people like different color shirts, red, green, purple, whatever. And so we have different styles. And Sauvignon Blanc, you don't see very many sweet Sauvignon Blancs. And the reason for that, people like dry Sauvignon Blanc. And it's gone over well. So the market's going to tell us eventually what we're going to make and sell. But right now, we're all experimenting. The first time I entered the competition was when Blanc du Bois, I got an email back saying, I got your wine, what grapes it made from? I said, you got the bottom from it? He said, yeah, and he read Blanc du Bois. I said, that's it. They'd never heard of it. So that's the problem, but you can sell it. We do a lot of production of it, and it does really well. I'm real pleased with it. And that's why we're here to help everybody here make the best Blanc du Bois you know.
I think also that question actually goes a lot more, it's much more universal than just Blanc du Bois, actually. I mean, this is a question that we have to answer for all Texas wines. We have to answer across many varietals. This is, you get out into the wider marketplace and it's a pretty vicious world. And so, there's a million reasons why somebody is going to reject it. It could be the name on the label, they don't recognize the right variety. It could be that it's wine. It could be that, there's a million things that could be problem. However, one thing that we do have in Texas that's growing a lot is we have an avid public that is fanning out across Texas every weekend and hitting tasting rooms all over the place. And it's not just 290, it's all over. It's some it's urban, it's the larger cities, especially where they can reach within a couple hours, it's really helpful. And when you're trying to hand sell or you're trying to educate people about a new wine or new variety or whatever, or a new region, they have to go out and experience it first. They're not ever going to go into specs and just pull it off the shelf at randomly. They're going to want to have had personal experience with it and say, okay, I tasted this at Sunset Winery. I like it. Now it's in my mind. There's familiarity. That's the huge benefit of the tasting room experience, and I can't underscore that enough. And eventually, it permeates into the wider marketplace. But that may take some time. But it's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as we have so much more traffic coming out to the tasting rooms every weekend, that will eventually do the job. If the wines are good, that will do the job.
Do you see the education at the tasting room?
No, they're there to try everything. I mean, there's when a consumer is taking a flight in a tasting room, what risks are they taking really? They're generally speaking, they're there to try everything. So that's their time to experiment. If they like it, then that's all it takes.
I just add one thing. I believe the Texas consumers are a little bit different. And I think they're willing to try different things, especially this Texan. And I
think that's a huge advantage that we have. In other words, we have customers that come into our tasting room and I want to taste the Blanc du Bois because we understand that it's something that's grown in Texas, it does very well, and we have that advantage.
It's just a matter of how to parlay that into the consumer that doesn't go to the tasting room, and the trade, yes, buy that product.
It's really a short
I think also that versatility of that varietal, it could be a curse because there's no real identity. So when people are going to taste Blanc du Bois, they don't know if it's going to be this style or this style or this style. And so you may have a segment of the population that's going to like this style. Do they identify with the varietal Blanc du Bois, or do they identify with the winery that's making that particular style? So I think that may be the issue with trying to recognize that, I like Blanc du Bois, but do I like this style or this style? Do I like the champagne style? Do I like the Madeira style? Do I like the barrel fermented malolactic style? And so it's a versatility that's awesome, but that could be also a curse as far as set on the sell side.
That was more to educate, but that also, I guess, labeling practices to go and play there, but also with like the Vineyard and Florence ones, it's brand name. So you build the brand and you track the brand. The producer play is also important, but like you said, there's so much versatility. So if you're making 6 different Blanc du Bois or 7 different Blanc du Bois, that's 7 different forms of education that you can give to somebody for them to understand the style that you're producing. So,
one area in the world that has done a fantastic job about that is Alsace and Gewürztraminer. You can go in Alsace and taste 20 different Gewürztraminer. They are all fantastic or appeal to different palates. They've done a good job of it. So I'm just throwing that.
But even in the Loire Valley, when you talk about Chenin Blanc, you get the style based off the region. So you may not know what the style you're going to get, but if you know the region, you know the style. So we haven't got to that point yet in our industry, but the versatility thing is, like I said, it's a couple of sort of something about it.
So we produce Blanc du Bois to support that. I mean, do we need to grow more?
Well, the Vineyard in Florence is an estate winery, so they grow everything. So everything that they use. So I can't speak to that at all, but Marta.
To be honest, I don't know either. Maybe Jerry knows.
I think we have about 200 acres of Blanc du Bois now. And,
Well, there's enough market for everything.
Is that statewide?
yes.
Okay, so the question was, is there enough Blanc du Bois planted to actually make a bigger marketing push into the market? And just, in general, turn out to be different?
No.
Yeah, well, that's for everything.
What number of acres?
I heard 200.
I think we've got about 200, although it may actually be larger down in the valley. They've got about 45 or 50 acres. It's just coming into production in the next 2 years. So people that are looking for Blanc and can't find it in our area might talk to the Valley Board.
I think that's another question I have for the growers. Is there any cost advantage to Blanc du Bois than another varietal? No?
I got a question. You talked about canning and orientation. Very consideration for spacing. When you reach the line, you're going to start
I'm kind of of the opinion that, I've started 9 vineyards, and so, over time, my spacing has gotten more and more narrow. This has been a trend that I've noticed, and I've kind of worked my way down, a foot at a time or whatever, but I'm very much in favor of low production and low yields, and most people don't know that, and love or hate it, but you can put more vines on an acre. The last one that we did last year, we put 1,100 vines on an acre, so we were on a 10x4 space, and it's not a Blanc du Bois vineyard, but I don't think it makes that much difference, varietal wise, but we're looking to pull off fewer and fewer clusters per vine, and we're looking to get more and more verticality in the trellis. And we're looking at high side lighting on every variety. And this is, if there's one thing that is coming through loud and clear in Grayville and Texas, is that high side lighting is in every variety, whites, reds, everything. But I mean, you know, like you can talk about driving down tires in whites, okay? You have the same benefit, the same trellis system works just as well to provide anthocyanin in reds and get you better color and higher quality phenols. So, you know, this is a vertical shoot, you know, as much as vertical as you can get, and I know it's hard on here, you know, to be, you know, to get it as well trained as they are, because our shoot growth happens so quickly that sometimes, you know, sometimes it's harder to keep up with, but one of the things in our history that set us back, I think, was, you know, too much information from East Davis and others to, you know, to pick on them. But I mean, I planted my first vineyard in '81, went out to Davis. You know, there was only a few vineyards in Texas at the time. You know, nobody knew anything. I mean, it was like a black hole as far as data. And you know, they said, oh yeah, it's just like the Central Valley. You know, go 8x12, California sprawl, blah blah blah. You know, I worked that vineyard for 16 years. I never got a wine that I would drink. You know, and I started to realize after time. I mean, it was. I mean, the grapes were shaded, that we had all the elements in the fruit that you didn't want were in the fruit. It was a short growing season, the binding time to build polyphenols and providing great nutrition. So it actually turns out the opposite is true. You know, and vertical shoot is not just for cold climates. So it's for us too. And I would say if you talk about trellising, I mean, that would be the number one thing. That would be the main thing that I would do. Across the board.
All right, any last questions?
Regarding big decisions, I think you can generally break Sauv Blanc down into, say, green vegetal, citrus, melon. Let's just say generally. Do you find that same spectrum with Blanc du Bois, or how does it differ?
Can you say the first line again? I didn't get it.
Regarding big decisions, regarding
like harvest time?
metabolizing out the pyrazines, they're still there. We've got these green vegetables. We start to just get past the pyrazines, we get into that citrus spectrum. If you go a little riper, a little higher sugar, you're in the more tropical melons. What happens with Blanc du Bois on the vine as it's ripening, going through those stages? What are those stages, and what are you looking for?
Well, first of all, no question that lower yields will provide higher sugar. So you know, if you're struggling to get grapes, you know, then you're probably trying to produce too much fruit. So that's the first thing I would look at. But you're correct that, you know, no question. I mean, every day, I mean, Kimber and I will walk in the vineyards when it comes time. We'll take random samples, smash it up in a Ziploc bag. Your nose will tell you everything you need to know. You know, I mean, you'll know if fire seems too high. You'll know if you're you know, what kind of fruit elements you're getting. I mean, it's pretty instantaneous. You know, I mean, it's not really that complicated. My philosophy is we're netted. So that's pretty. I can't emphasize that enough. It's very important. If we're netted, I can leave those grapes out there as long as I want to until, and I'm not in danger of losing the crop. And I know I've seen a lot of Blanc du Bois hit because it wasn't netted, and people say, oh, you know, I got past the pyrazine and now the birds are just like killing me, and so they'll go get it. But it's not really like ready. If you're going to do barrel fermented Chardonnay style, it's going to need to hang longer. That's why nets are super critical.
There's also some research that they said that Blanc du Bois gets the most aromatic at lower stages of grapes. So apparently when you hit 2021, it started losing aromas. I don't know if that's true because I never harvested with old grain. And also we want to keep the acidity. That's important for us. And we can't wait much in the south of Texas because it gets rains, a lot of rains in July, humidity, so that's another reason we have to pick early too. But another thing that I think is good for Blanc du Bois, and I just came from California last month, and they were talking about how low alcohol wines are becoming more and more popular. Usually, Blanc du Bois are going from 10 to 12. That's another extra good point for white wines.
All right, guys, I hate to cut anybody short that had questions. I'm getting the XA on the symposium day at this point. So thank you guys for coming.